the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Send me emails, patrick@relevantradio.com. Here's an email that comes in from Bridget. What are your thoughts, she asks, about modern weddings, in particular about aspects that I consider to be over the top, not in a good way? Things like bachelor parties and bride parties taking place in distant places that require, in some cases, air travel. And things like the bride hiring a professional to do her hair and makeup, and things like the couple suggesting that the wedding guests give them money for a honeymoon or a house. I find these things to be missing the whole point of marriage, the purpose of it, and the true meaning of it. I'm asking this now because I just received another wedding invitation asking me to give the couple money rather than a gift. It just seems rude and misguided to me. What do you think? Thanks for answering my email. Happy to, Bridget. Well, I agree with you. And I realize that, it's the bride's special day, but honestly, it's no more her special day than it is the groom's special day. I think the fairy tale princess motif has maybe rather dramatically become exaggerated in our culture. And our culture has a tendency to exaggerate things to the point of absurdity. So I'm all in favor. And as I say this as a father of 5 daughters, I've married off most of them. I understand. You want it to be a beautiful day, a beautiful dress, beautiful flowers, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. My sense of, and this is the way I would answer your question, Bridget, is that this is an exaggerated form of something that's good. So we know in the Bible that when Mary, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and Saint Joseph completed their betrothal phase of marriage, and they entered into the phase of marriage where they lived together, and they didn't live as husband and wife under these unique circumstances. But in any case, we know there was a big party. And I'm pretty sure that to the extent that the people had maybe a better set of clothes, chances are they wore the better set of clothes, the nicer set of clothes perhaps, to the wedding party. There were wedding garments Jesus talks about in the Gospels, special attire just for weddings. You wouldn't wear it out in the street. You would wear it to a wedding. That's how specific they were. We know that the wedding involved lots of delicious food, lots of wine, for example. And we're talking in John chapter 2, the wedding at Cana, the stone jars that Jesus miraculously changed the contents of from water into wine. We're talking hundreds of gallons of wine. That means a lot of festivities. These were multi-day events. So even just in the life of Jesus, in his presence at the wedding at Cana, we can see that a lot of time and energy and expense went into a good, wholesome, God-centered wedding, and that's a good thing. Now, I agree. I do think that in the era of Instagram and the so-called quote-unquote influencers, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're influenced by somebody on Instagram, I think you need to rethink a lot of your life's priorities, because people on Instagram, if they are the ones who are influencing the kind of decisions that you make, something's wrong. But for better or for worse, and I would argue mainly for the worse, you've got these so-called influencers on Instagram and elsewhere who have started a trend where if you're going to have your bachelorette party, it's going to be, in Aruba or in some far-flung place. And I mean, think of the expense and the burden that puts on all of the bridesmaids to go to a place like that. You don't need to do that. I mean, it's fun, but why would you burden your friends who are going to be bridesmaids, who are there for you? Why would you burden them with airfare and hotels and all those things? To me, it just seems completely unnecessary. It's uncalled for. It's extravagant. Couldn't you be using that money for better purposes, like the wedding? Maybe. I look askance at that. And my perspective is, it's not inherently wrong, but what a waste of money, what a waste of time when you could accomplish the same thing if indeed you wanted to even do that. And we're not even talking about like something that's lascivious or something that, would be in itself sinful. We don't have to get into those things. The same would be true for the bachelor parties, drunkenness and carousing, and worse, of course. That has no place in the life of a couple who's going to be married before God in the church. I mean, we should be thoughtful and careful about what we do, because these things do say something about the inner person and where your priorities are. And are you really putting God first, et cetera, et cetera. So I would give a discouraging glance to things like that. It's just unnecessary. And then what about asking the guest to give you money? To me, that seems very crass. If you want to have a wedding registry, hey, we could really use some pots and pans and a blender and whatever. I mean, it's not that I'm the arbiter of anything. I'm not. But, just you're asking my opinion. So my thought is a wedding registry, that's nice. And sometimes people get to the wedding registry late in the game and there's really not much there. There could always be an option, in lieu of a gift. You want to send cash, that's great. But to ask people to do that seems a little bit weird to me. And I share your kind of distaste for that. Now, one final thing, and Bridget, this is going back 44 years ago. Nancy and I are, well, actually not quite 44 years. We're coming up on our 44th wedding anniversary. And we were poor and we didn't have any money. It was, our wedding reception was a potluck. And everybody brought something, and it was fun, and we danced, and we had a great time. It was really a lot of fun, but it was done on basically a zero budget. But one thing that it seems like it was the custom then, I don't know if this is still going on now, it might be, but we had what's called a dollar dance, where both the bride and the groom would dance with people, and when you'd line up to have the dollar dance, you had to pin on the lapel of the jacket, my jacket or whatever, a dollar bill, or it could be a higher denomination, of course. And that was fun. It was kind of hokey and silly, but other wedding receptions were doing it. And I guess we've done that with some of our daughters and sons' wedding receptions. But the point is, it's a kind of a fun little game. And it's a way for people to, in a fun, gamey sort of way, give some money to the couple for, gas money for their honeymoon or whatever. It's up to them to use it because they're just starting out and they probably don't have a lot of money. Those kinds of things to me seem harmless and they seem fun, and we did it, and I don't look back on it with any regret or anything. But to send out, as I've seen done, an actual request for money, that to me seems crass. So I think overall, Bridget, I share your sense of this. That's just me, but that's my answer. And I haven't quite finished marrying off all my daughters, but we're getting there. And I've learned a few things along the way, that's for sure. You can join me by listening to The Patrick Madrid Show on the Relevant Radio app, live each weekday at 8 to 11 a.m. And thanks for listening.